Hello everyone, thank you for coming to another one of my videos. I hope you enjoyed my last one about the fastest way to pay debt off. In this video, we'll be going over the top 10 most common financial mistakes. So without further ado, let's get started. For number one, guys, we have excessive and frivolous spending. And this is any type of spending where you overdo it, like Starbucks. You spend a lot of money on one time, or over time, it really adds up a lot. So for the stuff that adds up a lot, it would be basically Starbucks, any drinks, restaurants, stuff like that. And for other stuff, it could be like cars also, so it doesn't have to be a small amount. And all of these things can add up really quickly. Many people can get really hurt with this type of spending, and it can really drain their bank accounts, especially if you're trying to keep up with someone else's lifestyle to match your appearance. And if you keep doing this, you're basically either going to wipe out your paychecks and be living paycheck to paycheck. You're not going to be investing. You're not going to have anything for the future when you retire. And to fix this, I recommend that you track how much you're spending on whatever you're spending monthly and see what most of your money is going to. This is going to reveal any hidden areas where you spend a lot of money. I also recommend that you maintain your own lifestyle and don't try to compete with people because this really could hurt your financial future. I'm also not saying that you should not, spend any money on Starbucks or go out or do anything fun, but check your overall budget. For example, most of my money that I spend is on restaurants, and I go to Starbucks and I could grab a coffee. But compared to the overall money that I make, this is not very much. So it really depends on how much money you make and how much money you're spending on other stuff. So basically, in my case, food, restaurants, and things in the same category is mostly what I spend my money on. That's why it's not very expensive. And that's how you should view your budget. You can spoil yourself on some stuff, but you can't do it on everything. For number two, guys, we have reoccurring or never ending payments. This includes anything subscription based or anything they have to keep paying for every month. This is like Netflix, Disney Plus, cable TV, even phone, stuff like that. A lot of the subscription based services that people have, they don't really use that often these days. The best example that I can give you is the phone, where people always get phone calls on their cell phone right now, but not a lot on a land phone. And that's why people should cancel it. It saves a little more money every month. And this doesn't include any other services like I mentioned before, Netflix, Disney Plus, even dating apps these days. A lot of stuff has subscription fees. For this, I recommend that you eliminate any services that you don't need or you're not really using anymore. This is going to reduce your monthly expenses. And I would recommend you start off with anything where you have duplicates. For example, if you have Disney Plus, you probably don't even need Netflix, or the opposite is also true. If you have Netflix, maybe you don't need Disney Plus. So you can cut one of them out, get some savings, and it probably wouldn't even affect you that much. For number three, guys, we have living on borrowed money. And the best example that I can give you for this is using your credit card to buy everything, but not being able to pay it off. For example, I buy some extra clothes, maybe go on a shopping spree. And this is really bad because credit cards probably have one of the worst interest rates, like 20%. So you're basically losing a lot of money at that point. The problem that people run through when living on borrowed money is overspending and not being able to pay off their full payment in time, like I mentioned before. But what also makes it worse is a 20% interest rate that some people are losing a lot of money to or can't afford to pay off. And this problem only gets worse if you're living paycheck to paycheck. And why I say this gets worse is because if you lose your job for a week or two, you're basically done. You don't have any money, you can't pay it off. Now you've got a big problem on your hands. So I suggest you only buy with your credit card what you can afford to pay off fully and try to avoid getting into debt at all costs, especially if you're buying stuff that you don't really need. For number four, we have buying a new car you cannot afford. Personally, I like to buy a used car because when you buy a used car, it's not losing the 20% depreciation when you drive off. These used cars are usually much cheaper. The only thing that you're missing out on is actually buying a car when it comes out. In that sense, the newest, it's like buying a new PS5. The biggest problem I see with this is that when you're comparing a used car to a new car, the new car is usually a lot more expensive and it's going to hit you a lot more when you're paying that off. A used car is going to be a lot less expensive over the long term. And I see the biggest issue for younger people who just graduated or just got a new job and they get the car of their dreams, and then they're stuck paying it for about 5 years when you can buy the exact same car maybe 2 years old, which from what I noticed, there isn't really much of a difference, and you'd pay a lot less money and you don't lose a 25% depreciation. I would also consider buying a car based on what your job is or how far you live from your job or how much you're driving. If you're driving a lot, I recommend that you buy a car that's really fuel efficient, because this is going to save you a lot of money through gas. And if you do buy a used car, you're already saving a lot of money that way as well. For number 5, guys, we have buying a house. When you're buying your house, you should first see how much of a mortgage you can get and make sure you're not overspending. A lot of people just try to max out their mortgage, not because you could pay 500,000, doesn't mean you should. And buying a huge house with a huge mortgage is really going to affect your paycheck month to month and how much of your money is going towards the house. So maybe you should start off with a house that's small, or even an apartment, till your family grows, and then you could get a house. By then you'll have more money saved and you'll be wasting a lot more money. Not only that, but buying a huge house when you can't afford it or it eats up most of your paycheck, it really does eat up your investment. You can't really invest any money since most of your money is going into the house. One of the biggest issues with this, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck, is if you lose your job, you could lose your house, or you're going to get into a lot of debt just to be able to pay the house till your next job. And that's only if you're fortunate to get another job within a time. Also, one more thing that people don't consider when buying a bigger house is that it's also higher and more expenses, right? You have higher maintenance, probably higher utilities, property tax, and all of this stuff really does add up, and it's going to make you pay a lot of money long term. So my recommendations for buying a house is you buy something that you can afford so it doesn't get you in trouble later. Also, don't fall for the trap when buying a house that when people start looking for houses, the real estate agent usually is like, oh, maybe I should get this just in case. Oh, maybe I should get the extra living room, extra garage space, extra room for guests. You got to go in there with a specific number so nothing deviates and you don't end up buying something that you can't afford. For number 6, guys, we have using home equity like a piggy bank. Basically what this means is you keep pulling out money and refinancing your house to get money out of your house. And basically this is really bad because you're given equity or ownership back to the bank. And this also means that it's going to take a lot longer to pay off what you took out. Refinancing only would make sense if you get a lower interest rate on your house, or if you refinance to pay off a really high debt. And that's the only time that I would do it, but I recommend that you do stay away from it. For number 7, guys, we have living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of households these days live paycheck to paycheck, which is a huge problem. Being unprepared and not having any backup funds can really lead up to a lot of issues down the road, like getting into a lot of debt, or worse, even being homeless. Like we witnessed in the last 2 years from COVID, a lot of people lost their jobs. And if it wasn't for the government and the stimulus check, a lot of people would have been in a huge problem, maybe even homeless, most of them even. Living paycheck to paycheck is a huge problem because it's dangerous if a single check is missed. And this can really happen because of a lot of reasons. Maybe you got laid off, maybe something like COVID happens, maybe there's a worker strike, anything could happen. And that's why you should put some money on the side so you're always prepared. I recommend that you guys save 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in an account that you can quickly access in the case of loss of employment or changes in the economy. This emergency fund will keep you out of debt in case any emergency happens, and will give you an ease of mind because you always know that you'll have some money to fall back on. For number 8, guys, we have not investing in retirement. Retirement is extremely hard to achieve for the future based on one's own active income, unless it's a very high position that pays you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not having a retirement account or contributing to one can lead to a lot of problems later on where you can't actually retire. This is going to force you to keep working at an even older age where you don't have much energy, and this will put a lot of strain on you and probably on your close family members as well. For this, I recommend that you contribute to the retirement accounts early on, even if it's not bigger amounts, just get yourself used to it. And these accounts are the IRA or 401k for the US, or if you live in Canada, you're looking at the TFSA or RRSP. This will help you secure a future when you retire, so you don't have to worry about constantly worrying about money. For number 9, we have paying off debt with savings or paying off the wrong debt first. You may be thinking if debt is at like 19%, your retirement account is at 7%, then swapping a retirement account to pay off the debt means you're pocketing the difference, but this is a massive issue. When you do this, you're losing the power of compounding for your investments, and based on the account that you're pulling out your money out of, you might actually have to pay it off or pay the money back anyways. I recommend that you try to stay away from your saving account or investment or retirement accounts. You should just try to pay off your debt from the highest interest rate to the lowest. And if you need any more information about paying off your debt, you can refer to my last video where I actually went thoroughly through how to pay off your debt and which techniques to use. For number 10, we have not having a plan. Your financial future, or where you'd like to be in the future, depends on what you're doing right now and how you do it, right? If you ignore this for too long, you're going to find the time is going by quickly, and you might even find yourself at an unfavorable financial situation. And not making a plan can include anything I mentioned above, like not having an emergency fund, spending a lot of money for no reason, or on stuff that you don't really need, not investing in your future. For this, I recommend that you make a plan, and this has to include everything from your spending habits, the budgets, where you want to see yourself in the future, how much money you're making, what financial goal you're trying to reach, because if you don't have a goal in sight, you're not really going to know what you're supposed to be doing. And for this, you should really try to meet a financial advisor for a general idea on how to make a plan for your financial future. And if you don't want to meet up with an advisor, that's okay too. These days, there's a lot of videos about everything. You can find a lot of information. You can read books, but you do need to make a plan. Thank you guys so much for watching another one of my videos. I really appreciate the time you're giving me. I hope you learned a lot and it's made a lot of sense to you. If you have any questions or comments or feedback, you can leave them down below. And if you have any ideas on future videos or stuff that you'd like to learn about, you can also let me know about that. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys later.